While our chaplain leads us in prayers.
Where we can no longer be sure what is true. Images and words are no longer to be trusted. Help us to be true to our own words, worthy of trust, and to live with real integrity, that we might be forgiven for past indifference and lead the way for a society that lives with your truth at heart and your compassion for our fellow man. Bring those who lead to seek you as their conscience in all things. We thank you for those in our lives who we know we can turn to, and for the knowledge that we can turn to you. We pray through your Son, whose example we are given to follow, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Now we will proceed with the agenda. Starting with item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Not seeing any hands raised, so I will take that as a no. Item 3, apologies for absence. Lawrence, do we have any apologies?
We have one apology from Councillor Emma Sims.
Thank you. Okay, minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Stokes.
Thank you, Chairman. There is an amendment to the minutes at number 69. The 12,951 is the budget for 25-26 and not 26-27 as stated in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
I also wanted to query something that was written down in the minutes about one of the proposals which had come from Budget Scrutiny Committee, where it was said that the grant money would go to energy efficiency, whereas in our proposal it showed energy efficiency and biodiversity. I just wanted to make sure that that was still the case, please.
Absolutely relook at that and make sure that biodiversity is covered.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments on the minutes? If not, then with those amendments taken, I'll propose those as a true and accurate record. Can I have a seconder, Councillor Wilkin?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Okay. All those in favour? Okay. Thank you very much. Julie, you've still got your microphone on. Sorry. Okay, Chairman's announcements. Now bear with me a moment because I left this very late to write these, so they're in my email, which I now need to find and read out to you. Right, well, anyway, despite despite the fact we've already had a special council meeting in January, this is actually our first normal scheduled full council meeting since December, so I suppose I ought to start by wishing you all a happy new year. I also need to remind you that we've got another special council meeting on Friday afternoon this week at 2 o'clock. That will be to formally confirm our council tax resolution. You'll hear more about that later when we discuss council tax, but unfortunately we're not in a position to go through the formalities today. There will need to be a meeting for that on Friday. It won't be a very long meeting, but we obviously do need enough people to turn up to make it happen. So please, if you can turn up Friday afternoon, please do. And then there will be another special council meeting, which I think you've already had circulated via email next month, to consider the South Worcestershire Development Plan. Again, please make sure you put that in your diaries and be here if you possibly can. As always, a full list of my civic engagements since the last full council will be circulated with the minutes, but I do want to highlight a couple of them. The first was on the 29th of January, when I was a guest of the Mayor of Worcester at the Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration at the Guildhall. And the second was here at the Civic Centre yesterday, when we raised the flag of Ukraine to commemorate the 4th anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Both of those were deeply moving occasions, and I'm very grateful to everybody involved in both of them. Both are a reminder that peace is fragile, and not only that we should never cease to be grateful for the freedom we enjoy, but also that we should never take it for granted. Alongside those, I've also done another set of Wychavon Community Star presentations, triangulating the district from Evesham to Inkbarrow into Droitwich and then back to Evesham. Recipients of the awards this time have been running community groups, providing food banks and fundraising to install defibrillators. And every single one of the award recipients is an example of how our community pulls together for the benefit of others. So I just want to again put that on record. Every time I give you a set of chairman's announcements, I will mention the community awards because they are so crucial to what our people here in Wychavon do. But anyway, moving on now to item 6, public participation. We have one participant, Sam Bastow. Do you want to come forward, take your position at a seat?
Thank you. It was agreed at, I think, the last Wychavon meeting that you would be funding the rest of the bollards in Evesham. Worcestershire County Council have had no official correspondence from you confirming that decision. So did you do it just for the headlines, or if not, when can Worcestershire County Council expect official confirmation?
Thank you very much for the question. I have had a response written which I will read out to save you the effort of having to wait ages for an emailed response. The answer is I'd like to thank Councillor Bastow for the question. It gives us the opportunity to remind him and others that the £23,000 contribution we are making to this county council project was always subject to the approval of our budget for 26, 27 and beyond. I would also like to remind members that we are stepping in to provide this funding to support local businesses and residents. We are making a payment towards the project, but it is the county's responsibility to ensure the ongoing maintenance and monitoring of the bollards. The funding is part of our budget and money plan, which is being discussed later in the agenda, and should it be approved, officers will then be writing to the County Council with written confirmation of this generous offer. So the answer is you will get, the official response will be made shortly after this meeting, assuming everything goes through. So I'd invite you to stay if you wish and watch the proceedings as we discuss the budget. Are you satisfied with that answer? Thank you very much. Right, in that case, moving on to item 7, petitions from members of the council. I do not believe we have any petitions. So next one is item 8, notices of motion. We have one notice of motion. Councillor Liz Tucker, I believe you are presenting this.
Thank you. The Council notes that management charges have become an increasing burden on householders on our new estates. These come on top of the council tax that they pay. And in the past, and I have got quite a past, as you probably know, in the past, there was an assumption that 106 monies and council tax would cover the costs of running these estates and the services within a town or village for the future. This is, I don't know when anybody decided to do it differently, but somehow the developers have managed, I think, to make sure that the costs of them providing services on the new estates is more limited, and what is left as a space has not been picked up by the councils, who clearly don't get given the money for it, but is being picked up through charges to the residents by the management company set up by the developers. Now, this is becoming quite a problem in different areas. I'm not going to give you a lot of examples myself because I've got colleagues who are certainly having their residents getting extremely upset if they haven't got direct experience of these new charges themselves. But it does mean that they are paying council tax, which is everybody else's old-fashioned charges, and they're paying their own new charges. So there's a bit of double counting going on here. And there doesn't seem to be any controls, legal controls, over what they are charged or what is finally decided should be provided on that estate. So it's a bit of a no man's land, and even the current government is calling it the new fleecehold. Fleecehold. To the government's credit, they have, and I'm not sure which one it was, they have dealt with trying to control leasehold, which was quite a problem, I think, a few years back. And this new opportunity of charging more regularly from new householders has crept in. And I don't think anybody really planned for it to creep in, but it is a way in which the developers save quite a bit of money. The council possibly saves a little, although it's not your fault, it's just the way it happens. And the residents find that they've got rising bills that they had not anticipated when they bought the price of the house. It is a real problem, I think, and it's going to get worse. And I was pleased to see that there appears to be 2 government consultations going on at present. One looking at it from the point of view of the developers and how it can be better anticipated and prevented, and the other from the point of view of the householders. And, you know, I'm well aware that Wychavon does do its best to prevent difficult situations for its residents, and I'm hoping that I will be told later on that these consultations will be completed by the council. But I did also want to raise the understanding of those councillors who do not have new estates in their patches, that this is going on and to watch out for it. I have an item going to a committee, I think next week, isn't it? Which is going to approve an unadopted access road for the estate. Now, go forward, apart from any arguments about that road, go forward 20 or 30 years. That is going to be a horrendous cost to the estate for just getting into it. And nobody will have thought about it by then. It was a bit like the paths that suddenly started crumbling after the big expansion of the 60s. But that was a county council responsibility. If it's not adopted, it's no longer a county council responsibility. I can see sort of that I'm probably blathering on, but this is a problem for householders. It is something that needs some rules rather than being a Wild West state. And I'm hoping we can both keep it in mind in our own areas and as a council make it clear to government the difficulties potentially that are going to arise and have already arisen in some places. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not 100% sure whether this is Councillor Boatwright-Green or Councillor Arnold seconding the... Councillor Arnold. Okay, I'll be to you.
Thank you. I completely support this motion and second it. As a resident of a new build housing estate, we are finding life on new build estates challenging, and one of those challenges being the fact that we pay twice for basic services. Once through council tax and then again through estate management charges for roads, footpaths, play areas, grass cutting and tree replacements, as well as drainage maintenance fees. There are no clear rules to control these companies, so charges can go up significantly and are hard to predict every year and budget for. The service is often quite poor, with standards dropping even when fees are increasing. Homeowners find it hard to challenge unfair bills or bad service, and it's very, very difficult to change to a different management company. As I looked into this, it's very costly, and you have to obtain evidence over a very long period of time, as well as seeking legal advice, which the costs are huge. This week, on my estate where I live, we had local children who do not live there vandalise all of the trees and all of the planting on our green space, completely destroying them. I reported the vandalism to the police, but it's the estate residents that will have to pay extra charges to replace all of the trees. And for the maturity and the age of the trees, that's hundreds and hundreds of pounds per tree. So the new build estate developers, as part of the planning process, sadly don't encourage CCTV on open green spaces, so the police are finding it incredibly difficult and challenging to obtain enough evidence to prosecute people for vandalism. We've also found that the management charges can put off buyers as well as lenders, making homes harder to sell and sometimes affecting mortgage offers. The paperwork for management fees is often unclear, and people can be asked to pay extra admin or permission fees for even small changes when they come to sell their property. Developers can sell the rights to collect the management fees to investment companies whose main goal is profit rather than fair charges or a good service. So I would be really grateful if the council could respond to the government consultations and support really strong changes on private estate management, pushing for more roads and open spaces on new estates to be taken over by the local council so that they are paid for through council tax instead of private fees, and also support better rights for homeowners to challenge the charges and easier ways to switch between management companies if the service is very poor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Birch.
Thank you very much, Chairman. From the get-go, I'll confirm that both the administration and the Conservative group both fully support this motion brought forward today. The principle of private management companies is not necessarily the worst one. The principle is that you pay a little bit extra, you get a better maintained estate, you get your roads resurfaced more frequently, you might get nicer parks and open green spaces. That is not the reality that the majority of residents experience. And part of that is down to a lot of the way that Wychavon manage their estates and manage the areas that we look after. We regularly mow the grass, we ensure that we take care of our green and open spaces. Within my county division, I oversee the Newland estate, which Councillor Richard Morris and Councillor Joan Grady oversee at a district level. And we have been calling for years for the adoption of that estate because the management companies, Trinity and First Port, simply haven't looked after it. Bins haven't been emptied, drainage issues haven't been resolved. We've had issues with traveller encampments which were passed from one agency to another with no real solution. And we've seen, worst of all, the management charges increase year on year exponentially without any increase in that service level and actually without any justification from the management companies. So we will, of course, be asking that the planning department respond to both of these ongoing consultations, and we would urge that all councillors also do the same in the interest there being power in numbers. I also just wanted to allude, though, to the fact that one of our local MPs, Nigel Huddleston, we recently hosted a meeting in Droitwich Spa about these ongoing issues and about the challenges that residents have faced. We had a public meeting where a number of these residents came forward. And on the back of that, Nigel's written to the Minister in charge of this consultation, overseeing it, Matthew Pennycook, with 3 clear requests and improvements in key areas, which I'll just read out to you. Firstly, councils should be given greater powers to adopt or take over private estates where standards are not being met, subject to appropriate safeguards. Second, residents must have stronger statutory rights to challenge unfair or opaque management fees, with clearer access to redress and enforcement. Third, there must be a stronger accountability placed on management companies themselves. As legislators, we should apply meaningful pressure to ensure that services promised are actually delivered. So on top of this motion, I am more than happy, alongside the leader, to ask that we write to the other 2 MPs covering Wychavon, being Chris Bloor and Harriet Baldwin, and ask that they possibly look at writing a similar letter to the relevant minister so we can put as much pressure as possible, because I do fully agree that these management companies are not delivering the services that they were brought in to do.
Thank you. Councillor Thurier.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just was talking to a family on an estate in Drake's Broughton at the weekend, and they told me they'd moved in 2019 and they were paying, I've got it written down, they were paying £500 per annum in 2019. They are now paying £1,100 a year. Just to give you some idea of how it's going up.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Oh, yes, Councillor Charles Tucker.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Misha if she could give us, and perhaps not now, but before the consultation is responded to, on the question of the legality of charging for drainage, sewerage, within the management charges. As you'll recall, 2012, the law was changed to make it to make any sewer, a public sewer, a foul sewer that is, not a surface water sewer, But I do believe that a number of companies are actually charging for the maintenance of those sewers, which surely are public sewers and therefore the responsibility of the water company. Also, there is the question of the of pumping stations in nearly all these new estates. Pumping stations are part of the infrastructure, and again, I believe that those are being charged as part of the management fee, when in fact I believe that they should be considered as part of the sewerage system and met within the sewerage charge, which the residents also have to pay to the water company. So they're being charged twice, I believe. But perhaps we could have some clarity on the legality of that and the legal position before the consultation is responded to. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Tucker, I will look into that and come back to you by email.
Thank you.
Councillor Beltrack-Green.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to raise that we've actually had quite a few housing companies that have actually gone bankrupt as they're building their estates. And at the same time, we found that there's still been management fees being applied to what is effectively a derelict site. And it's not just being companies that we don't have a relationship with. It's actually companies that are our own housing companies that have been doing this. It has been a massive challenge to get that money back from them, because they've said, well, the people are in those houses, therefore they should be paying a management fee. But there's nothing being mown, there's no upkeep happening, there's nothing actually going on. I think there's also the potential that we might need to have a friendly conversation both with our own housing companies, but also kind of with what enforcement can do when this happens, because actually we've had a lot of residents actually been stuck with very difficult situations. We've eventually got the money back, Harris Bank in Pinvin being a key one here, but actually it's been a really unnecessary situation where we've actually had to really apply ridiculous pressure to people to hand back money where they're clearly not doing the job.
Thank you. Councillor Middleborough.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, so the horror stories, we all have horror stories which have come out of these schemes. But I just want to look at where responsibility lies, and it lies in a number of places, because it does rely on due diligence being taken by mortgage providers, due diligence being taken by solicitors and conveyancers in relation to the property, so that those people wanting to buy a particular property are supplied with all the data and information. I do question whether that is being done in a comprehensive way. There are some good management companies, and I have one in my ward, which is a very good management company. And I tell you why it's a good management company, because the company is owned by the residents. And if the residents own the company, they have control. They do have rather strong control, the management company, because when the properties were developed, development rights were taken away. And whilst we provide planning approval, it has to pass through the management company before anything can actually take place. So yeah, we must take part in the process and raise the issues of management companies, mortgage providers and conveyancing solicitors.
Thank you. Am I seeing any other? No other questions? Do you want to since we had a few people speaking, do you want to just briefly sum up? Yeah.
To have agreement across the room, which is a nice feeling. The points that Paul was making just now, I do agree that there is a problem with new purchasers being fully aware or realising the importance of the very small print that may or may not be handed across to them, because the solicitors being used are usually appointed by the man or the people who are selling it to them. So there's a bit of a grey area there. And yes, if the residents own the estate and are part of the management of it, I can see that they have proper control, but nevertheless they're paying twice, because they are paying for the costs of everybody else's estate in fair shares, but they're paying the whole of their own. So it's intrinsically unfair. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, then we will go to the vote. And just to remind people that we're voting on the notice of motion as printed in front of you. I hope you've all had the opportunity to read that and fully understand it. So with that in mind, all those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimously passed. Right, in that case, we move on to item 9, recommendation to the Executive Board. I will hand over to the leader to introduce this and then pass around the colleagues to tell us the individual details.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Council. I honestly believe this will be a historic evening for Wychavon, with probably the start of our last budget, effectively. We've had some excellent and exciting items and discussions over the last 2 executive boards, items that demonstrate Wychavon as a leading council and one that we can all be very proud of. We will have the budget later and our money plan, but there's a few other items to cover before that. So I will pass to my deputy, Councillor Kersey, to take us through the Throckmorton New Settlement Master Planning.
Chairman and Leader, thank you. So the Throckmorton New Settlement Master Planning, we all know that within the SWDPR, Throckmorton was due to be one of the new settlements, and we all know only too well that the government, with its housing numbers, with the number of times we've heard about housing numbers, the pressure that we're under for housing numbers, and we also, every one of us in this chamber, know how privileged we are to live in the beautiful district that we do, and sadly we see so much of our greenfield and our countryside being destroyed to achieve those housing numbers. However, Throckmorton is, as we know, a brownfield site. We know it has a long history amongst there, and so that's why we want to bring this forward as a area of search to be able to look to actually achieve housing from that site, to be able to make the best use of that land. So therefore I propose the recommendation at 2, 2.1 and 2.2. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Middleworth.
I second the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker and Tucker both wish to speak. Choose between yourselves which one goes first. I saw both hands at once.
Ladies first, thank you. I didn't intend to speak, but I must point out, well, 2 things really. Greenfields are being spoilt, you're quite right, and I don't know enough about planning and high-rise and that sort of stuff to be able to give you a simple solution. But I do question the idea of a new town of 10,000 and 5 miles away another new town in a place which is already being suburbanised by the planning drift up from Pershaw, which seems to be part of the NPPF and 5-year land supply problem. It's just going to be one big suburban mess. And if you think you can keep us apart from Drake's Broughton, apart from the surroundings of the Stoulton area, I think you're being extremely optimistic. I would also say that I know Throckmorton is officially called a brownfield site, but it has got a great deal more nature than most greenfield sites because it hasn't been touched for 40, 50 years. And there was one other thing I was going to say, which I can't remember what it was. I think it is a mistake that in the whole of Worcestershire there are intended to be 2 new towns and they're going to be in spitting distance of each other. I can't call that good planning. Thank you.
My point was slightly more detailed. In the site plans we have seen before up to this point, Throckmorton Village was actually excluded. But I see now in the illustrative site boundary on page 36 that the whole of Throckmorton Village, and obviously Liz and I live there, so we're more conscious of any issues relating to it. But in all the plans that we have seen up to now, the village was excluded from the red line of the strategic site boundary. And I wonder if this is just a mistake or whether it is a deliberate change of policy. Thank you.
Councillor Kersey?
Chairman, thank you. To your point, Councillor Charles Tucker, it does say in the report that it's Throckmorton Airfield. I appreciate what you're saying is that the red line boundary as it shows, but we're all pretty sure, I mean, this is a unique piece of land, if you like, and that is the reason why it's an area of search at Throckmorton Airfield. So I hope that answers your question. Councillor Liz Tucker, yes, absolutely. You're looking at places joining together, and the other alternative is the however many thousand homes that could be provided at Throckmorton Airfield of the brownfield site. Yes, you're absolutely right. The alternative to that, and what is actually happening at the moment, is that we're having villages join together, and we're having villages join towns. We're going to have pretty much towns join together because the government is insistent on these housing numbers, and it therefore means that everything that we designed to do, for example, out of Wychavon New Town, was to take up those housing numbers by providing a new settlement with all the infrastructure so that we protected our villages. But the alternative that's actually happening at the moment is those villages are not protected and they're morphing into towns. And you give Drakes Broughton as an example. I mean, that probably, Drakes Broughton and Badsey are probably one of the worst examples of what's happening to our countryside and our green fields that are being lost and destroyed. And my key thing is that, you know, governments can do all sorts of things, but what they can't do is once greenfield sites and our countryside has been destroyed, they can't bring it back. So I very much welcome what we're looking to do with Throckmorton, which ultimately is what we originally planned to do within the SWDPR, but the inspector didn't think it was ready at that point. And Councillor Charles Tucker, I know in the past that you've mentioned that you'd like for it to be an energy park, but then I would just say, you know, where are those thousands of homes going to go? And they potentially are then going to go on the greenfield sites that we all want to protect and preserve so desperately hard.
Councillor Boatwright-Green.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, the reason I found myself raising my hands was this kind of discussion about the green fields. If we look at the very brightly coloured plan we had last time that went to the inspector and clearly didn't impress them, what we actually ended up with was a very clear donut that kind of happened around the airfield. A lot of the actual airfield wasn't touched in our master plan. Many reasons why. Illegal waste areas are going to cost an absolute fortune to clear up. So I do welcome us going and doing this because there's no way someone is going to pay to put housing on that unless they get significant government funding. But also we're talking about having to move quite clear farming infrastructure as well, which is going to cost a huge sum of money. I do wonder the degree to which we're just flogging a dead horse here, because in all fairness, the more I look at it, bearing in mind this archaeology has been described on this site as some of the most significant in our area by our own teams, I do wonder the degree to which we are really causing ourselves a bit of grief here. So I welcome this kind of report happening, I welcome them doing this work, but I do think we really haven't understood that this is more than a brownfield site. It's an archaeological site, it's a dump, it's right next to a landfill, it's chaos and mayhem, and at some point it had planes landing. So I just feel like we possibly need to be a bit cautious with this one.
Councillor Kersey, do you want to come back on that?
Only just to say is that, yes, it's exactly that. It's a unique piece of land, and that is why we're getting Homes England grant funding to be able to have it as an area of search, because we understand the difficulties and the challenges with it. So that's for all the reasons that you stated. That's the reasons why we're getting Homes England grant for it, and it's coming forward in this way as an area of search.
Okay. Is there anything further you want to say on that, Richard, before we go to a vote on this one?
Happy that you take it to a vote, Chair.
Okay. In that case, we will take the vote on the first recommendation here, which is the Throckmorton New Settlement Master Planning. All those in favour?
All those against? All those abstaining? That's clearly carried, Chair.
Okay, back to you, Leader.
Thank you. So that was the area of recommendation from the 7th of January. If we move to the more recent Executive Board, the 11th of February, there's a number of items that we need to cover. So I'll pass to Councillor Emma Stokes to take us through the Capital Strategy 26-27.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader. Yes, this is the season of the financial reports, and my thanks do go to Alice Mason and her team, who provide clear reports which are a pleasure to commend to Council. The capital strategy for 26-27 was presented to the board, and I identified the best line was using your capital in a way that supports services. This is exactly what it does do, and this is why we're in such a particularly good position. The Executive Board now recommend to Council on page 47, 2.1, that the capital strategy for 26-27 be approved.
And I'm happy to second that. What we do have, you all know, is the Capital Project Board, which was set up in 2022-23, and that maintains a regular check on items and progress. And like Councillor Stokes did, I thank the officers for supporting that. So, Chair, happy to go to a vote.
Okay, anybody wish to comment on that? No, not seeing any hands. In that case, we will go straight to the vote on that one. All those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you. That's
carried, Chair.
Clearly carried. Okay, Richard, back to you.
Thank you. Next item is the Treasury Management Strategy, and I'll pass to Councillor Emma Stokes.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Chairman. Similar to the capital strategy prior, the Treasury Management Strategy is designed to do exactly as it says, manage the Council's funds and to place the funds into areas to provide the best return within the boundary of the strategy for the right period of time and with the right amount of risk. These investments have allowed us to present the budget at agenda item 10. The Executive Board recommend to Council on page 57, 2.1, that the recommendations with the Treasury Management Strategy for 26-27 be approved, and I would like to thank my Audit Committee for reviewing the contents. Thank you.
Councillor Birch to second.
Happy to second, thank you.
Okay, do we have any comments on this one? No, in that case we'll go straight to the vote on that. All those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Clearly carried. Right, over to you again, Leader.
So the third item is Willow Court, additional funds, and to Councillor Emma Stokes.
Thank you. This is the third of four. I do have pleasure in recommending the report in relation to the funding for Willow Court. A grant had been secured for the fully redevelopment of the property into 6 apartments, and this additional funding should enable the project to be completed. The Executive Board recommend to Council the approval of £300,000 of funds from the Council's capital receipts to support Willow Court refurbishment project to enable the project to be completed. Thank you.
Councillor Della to second.
Thank you, Leader. This is for additional funds, but this is such an amazing project. I'm absolutely delighted to second this item. Willow Court does matter. Not just a little, not just in theory, it matters profoundly. This is our building. It's our responsibility and it's our opportunity. And when the moment came to step up, we did. We didn't flinch, we didn't hesitate, we leaned in and we embraced it. Every challenge, every obstacle, we met head on. I want to put it on record my sincere thanks to Jane and the team for the hard work that's gone into this. This is vision, persistence, collaboration and determination from day one. Tireless, unstoppable. We are creating something extraordinary, something that we can all be very proud of. Willow Court is 6 homes. It's 6 one-bedroom homes, which is our greatest need. But it's more than that. It is proof of what is possible when people come together with a shared purpose, shared belief and shared refusal to settle for anything but less than excellence. And make no mistake, this is a legacy project, not just for the people who will live there, but for every single person in the community who will see it who walk past it, who will feel pride in it, who it will inspire. This building strengthens the area. It tells a story, our story, what we value, who we are, and what we stand for. This isn't just local. Across the country, in heritage circles and beyond, people are watching and people are envious. People are asking, how did they do it? Willow Court is setting the standard. It's raising the bar and it's leading the way. So yes, I am proud, very, very proud to second this item. Proud to witness what's been achieved. Proud to watch what comes next. And let's be clear, the best is yet to come.
Thank you very much for that seconding of that proposal. Do I see it? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I want to thank this council for the work on this building. I think the impact on people in the area is, as Councillor Deller says, profound for young people on the estate who can easily feel disregarded, and they can take that attitude to things around them and disregard things around them. It's really powerful, I think, for people in the area to see that things are worth saving, both the heritage of the building, but also that even a building that was in quite a dire state can be of great importance to the community. And that I think that attitude goes beyond the saving of buildings. It's something that can really sort of rub off on the people in the area that things are worth saving and things are worth trying.
Thank you. Do I see any other speakers on this? No? In that case, we'll go to the vote on this recommendation as well then. All those in favour, if you could stick your hands in the air. Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, well that's clearly carried as well. Back to you, Leader, for the next one.
So we now move on to the Evesham and Pershore Leisure Centre Sustainability, and I pass to Councillor Beverley Hardiman.
Good evening. This is for Evesham and Pershore Leisure Centre and an upgrade. I hope we're all going to be in agreement because I think it's really important to do this. We've got both We Are Wychavon and Intelligent Green. Both of them support reducing our carbon, and we need to do that. The leisure centres produce an awful lot of our carbon. A third of it is just from Evesham Centre itself. And also, on top of that, they're getting old. So regardless of what's happening, we need to look at their heating systems and need investment. So proposing to spend up to 4 million to upgrade the systems. We have 3 proposals still to look at. All of them are maximising solar. One of them is full decarbonisation. Another one is heat pumps for the pool and the hot water, and then heating for gas-fired. And the third one is just to replace like for like. The reason we want them looked at is we want to be enable more detail on the work to see which is best option we can do, and we want to look at the capital costs, the operational costs and the carbon costs, and then be able to take a step forward on which one we do. And I hope you support this. Thank you.
I would say tonight all we're agreeing is the allocation of the budget. So the work, as Councillor Hardiman said, is to follow and the route that we follow. And it does say in the report that Droitwich is covered by the refurbishment. That's why that is not mentioned in the headline. Over to Councillor Birch to second.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, as Councillor Morris has pointed out, Droitwich isn't included for the reason of the ongoing refurbishment. Now, Councillor Morris and I got to take a tour of the new boiler room at Droitwich Leisure Centre. I'm not an expert on boilers, and I don't pretend to be, but it seemed to be working. The building was warm enough, so something's going right. But what the Managing Director of Wychavon Leisure has told us is at the moment, Pershore has a very, very complicated system that is actually costing them a lot of money. About the largest proportion of costs to Wychavon Leisure in Pershore is related to energy costs. And ultimately, it has an impact then on the level of profit that they can have. And actually, it means that it does affect their sustainability going forward. So from my point of view, it's around, from Wychavon Leisure's point of view, it's around the sustainability of those leisure centres. Wychavon have invested considerably in all 3, plus the Lido, over a number of years, and under unitary, that level of investment isn't guaranteed. So what we want to do is make these leisure centres as profitable as we can, as well as making them as environmentally sustainable as we can. And by putting in new heating systems, and of course this will mean there'll be new heating systems across the 3, they will hopefully be able to make a greater degree of profit, which will allow them to reinvest in the services and to lower the cost of the services, which make it more affordable and accessible to our residents. So overall, as well as being environmentally sustainable, I do believe that this is key to ensuring that our leisure centres continue to be there for a very, very long time and continue to provide the quality service that our residents expect.
Councillor Tucker, and then back to the leader.
Well, Chairman, I do welcome this report, and I do welcome the steps that are being taken to achieve the maximum or the minimum carbon footprint that we can on our two most profligate, if you like, energy profligate leisure centres. I do prompt and I do encourage the council to seek to get the maximum benefit out of this, and if there needs to be some more money spent to achieve full decarbonisation, then I do think that that is worth doing in the interests of reducing our carbon footprint as a council to the maximum extent, considering what is happening in the future. Could I just have clarification that this project is a project covering both of the leisure centres, and we're not talking about doing one before the other. They are both being done at the same time. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are correct, both of them. I mean, we probably do the same plan for both of them, but we could look at initially in each one and see, well, we'll plan it one for one and one for another, but I think probably might end up with both doing the same option, but there is the option on the table to do different plans for whatever suits that centre.
And it's going to be one contract, presumably, for them both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come back just to say, as the Executive Board, we did meet with the Managing Director of Wychavon Leisure, and we clearly asked, what do you need in terms of support to ensure that we have leisure centres in the future? With regards to local government review, if that is to happen, then we don't have the support from Wychavon to our leisure centres. And we want to ensure that the leisure centres are there for our communities within the future. They have been a beacon of our success, and we want to make sure that they have a healthy future with all the financial pressures that may be there on a unitary. And the Managing Director said, this is what we need. We need to look at sustainability. So hence the programme coming before you tonight in terms of what we're looking to do. I would also say, Matt, many of you joined the Intelligently Green discussion from Matt the other week, and he put a great chart up. If you were there, you saw it. But the greenhouse emissions, Pershore 21%, Droitwich 22%, and Evesham Leisure Centre 33%. So again, that sits behind what we're looking to achieve with this £4 million budget in trying to bring those down. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one? No? In that case, we'll go to go to the vote on this recommendation then. All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And back to the leader for the next one.
And this one's me. I make no apologies, but I'm actually going to say what I said at the Executive Board, because I just want the wider members to hear the points. So I've always been proud that our council has been economic-led, and that has helped towards our success over the years, whether it's our investments such as Vale Park, where in 2014, Wychavon purchased 37 acres of unserviced land at a total cost of £2 million. This became known as Vale Park South. In 2017, Wychavon secured £800,000 of growth deal funding from the Worcestershire LEP to construct an access road and associated infrastructure. Wychavon contributed £20,000. The total land sale receipts to date to Wychavon from Vale Park South add up to 11 million. And you wonder why we're a successful council. This is one of the reasons. And if we look at Worcester 6, we all see that grown over the years. It's a shared investment with County and the LEP, where we've had a return of over 800,000 on initial 500,000 investment, with at least 3 plots yet to be sold in phase 1. This is what we do at Wychavon, and there are many examples continued support for our businesses through the Business Growth Hub, apprenticeships, skills, or the pillar here in Pershore, supporting a small business and helping them grow. Yesterday, I was at the Hive Business Services at Whittington Hall. They provide backroom services to many of our organisations that provide school dinners, and it was an excellent organisation, and we fund 3 of the apprenticeships there, or have supported 3 of the apprenticeships there, and they're a beacon of success. They're already on to levels 5, level 7, and they're getting promoted in terms of what they're giving to that organisation. We know, though, that we still have a challenge. No more UK Shared Prosperity Fund and Rural England Prosperity Fund. These end to some degree in March, which has helped with our place boards, which have been really successful, our Rural Fund, grants, and in so many other areas. This was recognised in the scrutiny work, and I'm pleased to now move to recommendations in 2.11 to 2.15. This will include an additional 412,000 to cover the lost monies from UK Shared Prosperity and Rural England Prosperity Fund to deliver on our goals and our promises. So unlike many other councils, this government funding is stopping. We are replacing it in terms of supporting our community and our businesses. A Wychavon Growth Fund to support our towns, our town prospectus, the place boards, Broadway, business startups, growth, apprenticeships and skills. A Wychavon Rural Fund to support initiatives and economy in our area, in our rural area. A hospitality and venues initiative. We see how much hospitality is in the news and how much it's struggling. So we want to be there to try and support. In recognition of the severe operating climate they are in and in the important role they play in our communities, bringing people together and acting as social hubs. We want to continue supporting inward investment and growth opportunities such as Vale Park. We want to continue supporting tourism events and marketing, including Worcestershire Vale and Spa, What On Guides, along with our terrific events such as the Plum Festival, Battle of Evesham and Saltfest, to name a few. The economy will still be at the centre of what this district council does. It has served us so well in the past and can do so in the future. So I'm happy to move those recommendations, and I'll pass to Councillor Middleborough to second.
Thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to second the package of recommendations, which were fantastic. I'd just like to highlight 2 of them, particularly the STEM challenge for young scientists and engineers. This isn't just about people who are in work at the moment. This is about 7 to 11-year-olds to get them interested in science and engineering, which will be a fantastic investment for the future. And then to remind you, back in December, we had the council discussion regarding the cost of living crisis, highlighting several concerns affecting hospitality businesses and venues. Well, look, we've put money in as part of the programme to actually support hospitality businesses, so I'm delighted to second the package.
Thank you. Do I have any comments on that? Doesn't look like it. In that case, we'll go straight to the vote on this recommendation. All those in favour, please show. No, thank you, everybody, on that one. Good. Right, so that's
Excuse me, Chairman. Sorry. You're right. It does conclude it. There were 2 further items, the 26-27 budget and money plan to 2030-31, and Wychavon Council response to the proposal forms to the national planning, which are on the full agenda, but my portfolio holder for resources wants to just mention the budget and money plan.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Thank you. Certainly not. I mean, I don't make any apologies for repeating a lot of what I said at the Executive Board. We are presenting an exemplary budget. Really, this item will be considered in the next agenda item, but I will actually like 2 bites of the cherry. Your Executive Board will present to you a balanced budget, an agreed and a secure budget, and a give back to residents' budgets with 0 increase in the Wychavon element of the council tax for the next 2 years. I repeat, Wychavon will have a nil increase for the next 2 years. This gives your families a chance to plan their finance. This helps all families in the cost of living and enables them to choose. As well as a council tax freeze, a £5 million We Are Wychavon support fund for communities to enhance our strategy and give back or reduce service costs where and when we can to the whole of Wychavon, to provide hardship funding, subsidised swimming, some reduction in parking charges. All of these are worthy projects and will all be coming forward. But these projects, schemes and suggestions can only be brought forward from March 2026. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So does that conclude item 9? In that case, we will move on to item 10. Sorry, Councillor Julie Tucker. Sorry, I didn't see that hand.
Sorry, I'm just going to be a bit pernickety here. Councillor Stokes, the same problem that I mentioned earlier is in the report there, so can that be altered as well, please?
As mentioned earlier, Julie, I will absolutely check into it. Thank you.
Right. Any other? No? Right, let's move on to item 10. Leader. No, sorry. Item 10 is Councillor Stokes again. Sorry.
Thank you. This is, no, not the last one. I'm sorry, I've still got a few more to go. But it is such a good news evening, isn't it? The report has been updated following the Executive Board on the 11th of February to reflect the final finance settlement, the proposed freeze on council tax and the funding for the £5 million We Are Wychavon Support Fund, which will be developed over the next few months. And we will offer free or reduced charges on some council services to residents alongside financial advice, hardship funding advice and support to both residents and businesses. I have requested officers develop a suite of measures and therefore exact details of the package will be released later in the spring. The aim of this fund is to ensure residents of all ages and in all parts of the district have the opportunity to benefit. As mentioned at the Executive Board, additional funding has been proposed for next year, including the recommendations from the Budget Scrutiny Group. These include replacement elements of the UK SPF fund to ensure that businesses continue to be supported over the next 2 years. Also, we are allocating £400,000 to provide small community group funding and £100,000 to financially support energy efficiency schemes for community buildings. We are also enabling artefacts that were discovered in Milestone ground to be securely displayed in Broadway Museum for the public to enjoy. In terms of capital spend, we are completing the works on Willow Court in Droitwich by spending a further £300,000 and allocating up to £4 million towards the sustainability at Evesham and Pershore leisure centres. So therefore I make the following recommendations. 2.1, it is recommended that 1, revenue budgets and the use of reserves and balances in 26-27 as summarised in Appendix A be approved. 2, that fees and charges for the year 26-27 be detailed in the report to the Executive Board on the 11th of February to be approved. The report of the Chief Financial Officer, Deputy Chief Executive at Appendix B be noted along with the revenue money plan summary at Appendix D, indicating a 0% Band D council tax increase in 26-27 and 27-28 and annual increases of 2% subsequently. And number 4, the capital programme summary and capital money plan for 25-26 to 2030-31 as set out in Appendix C are approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to second those recommendations. In doing so, I'd like to thank all members of the ONS Budget Scrutiny for their contribution, their input, and the Chair, Councillor Julie Tucker, but also Councillor Stokes, who attended the meetings, and our terrific officers as well. I'm delighted that we will be freezing Wychavon's share of the council tax bill. By freezing the council tax, we are leaving money in our residents' pockets. Knowing County may put council tax up to a possible 9% or near enough, and increases amongst other bodies that make up the council tax. So our share will be frozen. At Wychavon, we understand the pressure our businesses and residents are under. For more than 50 years, Wychavon had budgeted on a basis of that we only take as much as we need and not a penny more. We are a well-run council. We invest wisely, as I referred to earlier. We look at issues and try and find solutions. Whilst we are freezing our share of the council tax, we continue to invest. Look at the planned investment to bring the renewal to Evesham Centre through the anticipated purchase of the Riverside Centre, the Droitwich Leisure Centre refurbishment, the Lido development, and the Pershore Motor Garage as examples, and you've also heard more tonight. We want to give back to our residents and communities when we can. This will be our 7th freeze in 9 years. Not many other councils have that record across the country. We know if local government review goes ahead, there will be a large hike for our residents in council tax. But we need to benefit our Wychavon residents whilst we are their district authority. We manage our finances well and will not put council tax up for the sake of it, when we know household budgets have so many challenges. After we announced the freeze at the 11th of February Exec Board, there was a great reaction to residents. These were some of the comments that I received. Maybe the people at Wychavon should take over at helm and show how it can be done at county level. Keep up the good work. There's a few on that theme. Thank you so much for your hard work in Wychavon. We can see the benefits of your excellent service. Magnificent. Well done, councillors, and thank you. It's a great shame that an excellent council is to be absorbed into a larger, less locally focused unitary authority under the government proposals. Wychavon for many years has controlled spending and invested wisely to keep a stable economic performance for residents. Well done to all involved. Maybe you can show Worcestershire County Council how it's done. Thank you for this welcome news. It's good to know our council is solvent and efficiently run. Let's hope future changes to how the councils are run doesn't envelop us in less savvy authority ways. Wychavon are a very well run council. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Leave us alone. One of the few councils with integrity, really thinking about the people they serve. And there were more, general thanks all round. A freeze, as you've heard, is not all we will do. We will go further to support our residents in these difficult times. We are looking to build a package of support to the tune of 5 million, and all we are doing tonight is agreeing that budget of 5 million. As Councillor Stokes said, the detail will be unveiled over the next few months. And that will be under the banner of We Are Wychavon, which we will hope to support in terms of prevention initiatives in health, mental health, crime, hardship issues, overall wellness, support business, connectivity, preventing isolation initiatives, and more. This is what Wychavon does. This is what a conservative Wychavon does. Builds our economy and pays back to our residents in ways that we can help our residents in everyday life. I am happy to second those recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Boatwright-Green, I believe you wish to speak on this.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to introduce an amendment from my group. There is no reason to wait until the end of March. We can definitely start to look at things now. And also, this was, I don't believe 5 million was discussed at budget scrutiny. So it's also, I'd like to point out before anyone says that we hadn't taken this through scrutiny, well, nor did this £5 million. The reason I'd like some reassurances on these specifics is because I'm noticing that there is an increase in the number of emails I'm receiving from residents, and these are the key areas where I'm beginning to see significant change for our residents. So very simply asking for just £500,000 over the 2 years to provide £200 for residents who demonstrate they're in significant financial difficulties. For many, they can only access, I think it's around £85 for the year, and they are experiencing incredible issues at the moment, in particular in areas where people have to rely on their cars because there is not public transport, and they're finding they're having to make a contribution to sort their car out, which is then leaving them in significant problems with their private rentals, because one of the big problems we have, of course, is a lot of people can't get onto our social housing register because there's 2 household incomes on minimum wage, and that eliminates them from being able to get onto our social housing register because they earn too much on minimum wage. We then, of course, have a lot of houses at the moment, or a lot of people on our housing list where we have a lot of overcrowding, and that means that children in particular, they need space to thrive. They need to be able to get to open spaces. In Pershore alone, I know of at least 4 families where we're talking about 3 generations in a 2-bed flat. And so a discretionary fund where we can help those parents get their children to places where they can do things that possibly they'd be able to do in larger houses. And a good example of this would just be a kick around and actually be able to go and play sports and go to community-based kind of children's events as well. The last 2, the next one I probably should declare a slight interest in. That the reason I know this exists is because my mother's accessed it in another council. And actually the Mary Curie charity got in contact with me recently and have been very heavily promoting this. This has been what they've been pushing for the better part now of, I think it's 6 months, really pushing towards this idea of that actually dying is expensive. Which I couldn't believe when they said it, and actually gave me an explanation of 110,000 people die in poverty every year. And so moving towards a scheme where we have this, where we can help people in their final year and give them their support, I think would be a fantastic idea. And finally, a 200k allocation to employ 2 financial inclusion officers. I was incredibly horrified recently talking to people, mainly because having come from a family where debt does happen, I'm very aware of what a priority debt is and what you need to pay and what you don't need to pay. And it's amazing how many companies are acting in quite a horrendous way. And I've seen mainly women actually taking on the debts of their male partners. And it's almost exclusively the ones I've seen actually happening that way around, because they've been told, because they're earning, that they have to contribute to that decision that was made, that one person had made, and they have to pay the actual debt of their partners. I've actually seen in cases where they've been taking out loans as well because they've been trying to balance the books to try and stop the credit card debt. And actually, if they'd had the support when they needed to, they actually would have been told that actually, no, you don't take on someone else's debt, and no, you don't pay it. And these financial inclusion officers exist in other councils, and I was absolutely mesmerised by their ability to get such chaos down significantly and so quickly. And so really this is just asking for a very simple outline of making sure that we support our residents for the next couple of years, regardless of what happens at county. I have to say, by the way, I well done on keeping a straight face while mentioning time and not mentioning time and power, because I remember the last 4 years. But I think this is a good way of just showing people that we really are moving towards actually doing something incredibly significant for them. Thank you.
Do you have somebody to second that?
Yes, I'd like to second that, but I'd like to just reserve comment till after everybody else has spoken. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Stokes, since you have the first right of response.
Thank you. Yes. An interesting amendment. At least you're not asking for the council tax to go up as you normally do.
That's actually inaccurate, and it's only actually happened once in my time at this council. Please tell the truth. It's really frustrating me with the Conservatives at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Boatwright Green. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm presenting an amendment. You're presenting an amendment to an exemplar budget £5 million for your residents. Absolutely brilliant. Tomorrow, you will be presenting an amendment for the 9% increase for everybody's resident, won't you? To reduce that, because we do not want our residents to have the problems associated with the hardship being presented from county council. So I would have assumed you would be presenting an amendment to that budget, as you are a county councillor for the Liberals and you are presenting this. Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Boatwright Green. Okay, so you are actually restricting benefits. You do realise that, don't you? By putting in an arbitrary figure, you are limiting what can be achieved when the hardship project is properly costed. This was our first suggestion with revenues and benefits, and they're currently providing figures. They also know which families are in the just about managing category and who would be the prime beneficiary of our We Are Wychavon fund. I can also confirm the delivery of the £5 million should be done without incurring additional costs. Another driver was all the residents will benefit from it and not additional salaries. Additionally, you will see our Conservative members, possibly later, overly eager in presenting their ideas. And some of them are for a community sports hall. But I will say to you, as I have said to the administration ideas, it is premature to identify schemes. But the board is really looking forward to hearing ideas from you. And once, when this is absolutely key, we have to agree the £5 million before you can spend it. So I reject your amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I've already got several people sticking their hands up to speak. Before we do, I just want to make it clear, at this point in the meeting, we are discussing the amendment proposed by Councillor Boatwright Green. We are not discussing the budget as a whole. We are certainly not discussing any other council's budget. We are discussing the amendment. Councillor Boatwright Green, can I just possibly clarify the specifics of your amendment? You're asking that we earmark £750,000 of that, as you stated in your speech.
700,000.
So the amendment is to specifically earmark £700,000 of that for the projects that you mentioned. Okay, right. In that case, I will now go to Councillor Birch, who wished to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. To me, the principle of financial inclusion officers is not a bad one. The need for financial support for residents across the district. More and more people are being pushed into a very difficult position. There is, of course, the risk that tomorrow, if the decision goes a certain way and a certain rise is approved, that more people will be pushed to the limit with that rise. So I hope all county councillors in this room will join me in opposing that decision tomorrow at that meeting. So I do agree with the principle. To me, the reason that we're in the position at Wychavon to be able to give this £5 million is because of the financial prudence, is because of the fact that we haven't jumped into financial decisions, because of the fact that we've thought through what we're spending. The date of the end of March, I get your point around we don't need to wait until then, but the reason that we have is we haven't picked that date because we like the sound of it. We picked that date because working with officers, it was discussed the sort of time that it would take for them to work up a few different proposals that we'd looked at, to work out the cost, whether there was the resource within the council to administer it, whether they could be deliverable in the space of those 2 years, and to work through some of those ideas. As Councillor Stokes has alluded to, there is absolutely nothing wrong with adding more ideas to that line, and it will be a case of slowly pulling them together. My biggest issue is rushing into making those allocations now without properly considering the impacts. And on the subject of financial inclusion officers, speaking to Councillor Della about this, the support, I agree, is necessary, But there is also the angle around using citizens' advice, around using some of our other partners that we work with within Wychavon, working with those that would save the recruitment costs, that would save the need to go out for market, that would save some of those additional costs that come with hiring further members of staff. There are other routes that we can take. So if the principle is around providing more financial support, that I agree with, but I think we need to work through the best way to make that possible, and to do that, we need to feed that into the consultation with officers. We need to work through it as one of our possible proposals, but ultimately, we need to ensure that all of these are deliverable, that we're finding the most cost-effective way to do them so that we can make the most of that £5 million. The principle of it is to help as many residents as we can, to benefit, if we can, every resident across the district in one way or another, which is why we haven't invested it just in one scheme. So I oppose the amendment on the basis that I do think it's premature, but I don't oppose the ideas within it, and I do hope that they can be fed into the wider discussion, and that we can then look as a council in terms of what we would like to introduce to ensure that we support as many people as we can.
Thank you. Leader.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say to everyone, we do have a county council meeting tomorrow in this room. Can we leave that for tomorrow? We're talking about Wychavon tonight and what Wychavon can do for its residents. I'd like to thank Councillor Boatwright-Green for sending the amendment to me yesterday afternoon and the discussion earlier today. And the points he raises are all very worthy and points that I'm sure everyone in this room would support. There are some that we already support, and what we're agreeing tonight is purely the £5 million budget for over 2 years. And I've already said this will include such initiatives as prevention. We will form a key focus, and this can be prevention through well-being, prevention for crime, prevention for hardship. I honestly don't believe the amendment is needed. It's not amending the budget, it's just putting some ideas forward for use of the £5 million, which in all honesty I welcome from any member of this council and from any party in this council, and we will evolve the package to support our residents over time. The government's hardship fund is due to end, another fund that's due to end at the end of March, but it is very likely that they will give further support, and we also need to see what is in that support before we nail down what we are going to offer to our residents. So unfortunately I cannot accept the paper as presented as an amendment.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Chair. I think I want to start by saying how much I personally acknowledge how difficult times are financially for so many of our residents at the minute, which is really why we're freezing council tax in the main budget, to try and alleviate it as much as we can. But to the point of the £5 million that we're talking about here, the purpose of this and what is to me its greatest strength is the flexibility that we're putting into it, is that it is sort of giving us the opportunity to invest in things like the leader said, prevention, hardship support and mental health, and to begin earmarking sort of parts of it, I think would really diminish what is its greatest strength, as I said, which is that flexibility, which allows us to distribute it to the people that that truly need it. But I will say that if the members of the opposition are as concerned with the hardship of our residents as they claim to be, then I would definitely invite them to support the Conservative-led county move to vote down the 8.9% increase by the reform. But I would also ask people to really take note of what councillors say here today and then do tomorrow, because that will really show who is fighting for the well-being of our residents. Thank you.
And I would just remind people we are talking about the amendment on this budget, please, and don't force me to interrupt you if you start talking about the county decision tomorrow. Charlie Hober, if you dare next to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. So over the last 6 weeks of 2025, the Council undertook a detailed and rigorous budget scrutiny process, one that under my chairmanship of overview and scrutiny has significantly strengthened through face-to-face meetings, member training and attendance of senior officers who can be directly questioned and give detailed answers. Every member of the committee dedicates considerable time and genuine thought to this work, for which I am grateful and I'm sure we all are. Crucially, the committee does not have a Conservative majority. The opposition holds a balance of seats and the chairmanship, and the final report and its recommendations were agreed upon unanimously. And when that report was presented to overview and scrutiny in January, they were again unanimously agreed upon, with every member, regardless of party, was satisfied with the recommendations. Those recommendations were presented to the Executive Board, which not only accepted them in full, but went further on several points. And all of this while freezing council tax without any reduction in service. In fact, I would argue our residents will see service enhanced as a result. So I must ask a simple question. If this amendment represents a genuine priority, why has it never been raised across half a dozen or more opportunities available over several months of scrutiny? Why was it not raised during the budget scrutiny process or put forward to the committee in January? And we considered the budget last week at ONS again, where there was ample opportunity, and the £5 million was aware of, that this could have been put forward, suggested, debated, scrutinised and possibly considered in more detail. The answer, I'm afraid, is this amendment was not designed to deliver for residents. It was designed to deliver a headline. Had improving outcomes for residents truly been the motivation, this would have been raised at the start of the process, not at the 11th hour on budget day, when there is no meaningful opportunity for scrutiny or dialogue. The administration has already delivered for residents a frozen council tax, no reduction in service, and enhancement to what we provide. That is what good governance looks like. This amendment, as worthy as it might be, adds nothing to that at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dawkes.
Thank you. I think most of the councillors before me have actually stolen most of my words. I can't support this motion at this time. Whilst the ideals behind it are commendable, we do produce prudent budgets, and we've got to look at all of the commendable and deserving things that other people will put forward. And we've got to look at it as a balance in its whole, not on a first come, first served basis. So we must look at this later. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Della.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to echo what a lot of people said. I champion a lot of what you've put down in this amendment. I think they're the right thing. I just don't think it's the right time. And I also want to add that we do have a financial inclusion officer who does incredible work and works very, very hard and has supported a number of residents already.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold.
Hello, thank you. I just want to make the point to everyone in this room and anybody that might be watching this, including all of our young people wanting to enter politics or just improve their community as a whole, it's never too late to suggest a good idea. It's never too late. Even at the last moment, if you have a good idea, last minute, suggest it, put it forward for debate, because it's never too late, and I completely reject that statement.
Right. Do I have anybody else who wishes to speak to the amendment? In that case, I'll go back to Councillor Boatwright Green. If you can just... Sorry, we've got some... Oh, Councillor Crump, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say, as a member of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, for the first time this year, actually, it was a very good scrutiny committee. We all worked extremely well as a team, including working with Councillor Stokes as well. We discussed things at an extraordinary length, including things like the council tax and a level of council tax that we were discussing and putting forward. We all cared about our community. We all talked about the different levels. We didn't talk about this 5 million and we didn't talk about it being broken down into these sectors because it wasn't on the table. So therefore, it wasn't something that was discussed at that point during the scrutiny committee. Just wanted to put that point out there so that you are aware of that. But the other items that I would like to thank the exec committee for taking forward our suggestions, because a lot of what we did put forward was very good ideas across the board, but I certainly, this is something that when it was put forward as an amendment, I actually approved of this idea because I liked the idea. I didn't realise that, for example, the terminal terminally ill people still were entitled to have to pay their council tax, their council tax, because you know, at a time when you're in dire straits, and the last thing you want to be thinking about is having to pay your council tax. So these areas I thought were very good key areas that we were trying to put forward to make sure that they were there to represent our residents. And it's, you know, it's not a political thing. It is purely there to try and make sure that these things go forward. We were not aware that you were going to break down areas for different sectors. So this is something that we wanted to try and do to protect our residents. Thank you.
Right, and I'm fairly sure now I'm not seeing any other hands wishing to speak to the amendment, so I will go back to Councillor Boatwright-Green to sum up the amendment, and then we will put it to the vote.
I'll give you credit where credit's due. You really are quite cheeky. You see, you're quite happy to put your own headlines out, and you'll put things out a couple of weeks before we actually vote on something, and then you'll turn up to a council meeting and go, oh my God, there's some politics. It's like, good Lord, it's like dealing with Punch and Judy. No, it couldn't be scrutinised. It couldn't be scrutinised because you decided to plonk £5 million onto the budget after it had gone through scrutiny, which, by the way, you've done so many times. I've hit the point where it's like, of course you have. You've plonked many You've plonked many things onto it.
That's not true. We considered it ONS last week, and the 5 million was included.
But it was not through the budget scrutiny process. You decided to plonk it on at the end. And you do this all the time. You think, oh, we've done the budget scrutiny, but actually, we'll just plonk it on at the end and expect people to quickly run to a meeting that they've got other meetings to go to. So you can shake your head all you like, but you constantly do this. One inclusion officer is great. I'd like 3. It's one of those where, again, not all residents will benefit. Some will, and that's absolutely fine. Some won't, and again, that's fine. But some people need to benefit more than others, and that's fine. So this idea that everyone will benefit from it is not true. They're not arbitrary figures, because I did this thing called work with officers. It's a novel idea, I know. I didn't just pluck things out of thin air. I spoke to them. I had long conversations with them. We looked at options. We looked at what would work well, what wouldn't work well. So this false accusation that we just sort of made things up, again, is just ridiculous. But the one thing I find particularly frustrating is in my entire time in this council, I've only ever supported an increase in council tax once. Which, by the way, I would have used to build more houses. Those social houses we need loads of because we don't have enough of them. That's what I wanted to do with it. And we still have a lot of it. It was before your time, Councillor Kersey. And the final thing, just this whole kind of discussion about kind of county council, I just find it hilarious. I just think the fact that you've had control of it for so long and then just literally crashed it, and now you're like, oh, we need to save people from it. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. The fact of the matter is, tomorrow we're going into an absolute bin fire, and you were the guys holding the petrol.
Well, I think that has got to the end of that particular discussion. You managed to just about scrape through without me having to use the gavel on that one. But we will take that to the vote. We are voting now for the amendment. So all those in favour of the amendment, if you can please show. And all those opposed to the amendment? And any abstentions? Okay, well, in that case, the amendment has fallen, so the original budget remains a substantive item. Does anybody now wish to speak to the budget? Councillor Arnold.
So what I would like to talk about is the council tax element. Is this the appropriate time? Yeah. So these are my thoughts on the council tax freeze. Even though we are a district that currently looks comfortable financially, I would challenge that a modest council tax rise now is about creating long-term stability, fairness, and would protect residents. I think we should think about this now rather than trying to plug a crisis in funding if and when it does appear further down the line. And my reasoning for this is that being in a good position can quickly change. So cost pressures such as inflation, wage growth, contract renewals and new duties sent to us from central government can erode a surplus in funds in just 1 or 2 budget cycles, especially if the council freezes its tax. A small rise now would build resilience, so the district, whatever that will look like going forward after reorganisation, will not have higher increases or emergency cuts later on, or fewer of them. So my thoughts are, invest while you can, not when you must. We need to continue to be in a strong position, using our time and funds to invest in preventative services, such as decent housing, community safety, parks, early help programmes, climate adaptations and town centre regeneration. We'd love to see new community services such as new park creation, expanded leisure centre facilities for all of our communities. Pershore is a really good example of this. So I've spoken to school-age residents recently because my son is one of them, so I go and chat to his friends quite regularly, and they are asking if the council can, expand the Pershore gym, for example. Kind of, it's not coping with it's not accommodating the amount of residents we have currently. So bigger gym facilities, new parks, they'd love a new park. So increasing council tax will mean that we can continue to invest now and reduce our future costs on things like crime, health, homelessness, and protect the quality of life, which keeps the district attractive to businesses and new residents. And that then strengthens the tax base in the long run going forward as we have more people wanting to live here. And we should also consider future-proofing against national uncertainty. So local government funding is still highly exposed to national decisions about grants, business rates, all the reforms and the finance system. And using a small council tax rise now to continue to build on our reserves and reduce deficits should national support tighten or demand spike for any reason, I think it would be useful to have that rise now. And as a parent, I also think about fairness, and that should be a consideration. So fairness between today's taxpayers and tomorrow's taxpayers, the next generation. So if the council avoids modest regular increases now, it does risk leaving a funding gap that future residents must close with much larger hikes, or they inherit worn-out infrastructure or cut-back services. This isn't a legacy I want to leave for my son, so I think a steady, predictable rise does spread that cost of maintaining and improving our areas more evenly over the generations, rather than backloading the pain onto younger residents as they grow and age. So it is worth considering that a small council tax rise now has a large collective gain. And a rise of only a few pounds a year on the average bill can translate into hundreds of thousands of pounds for services once scaled across the whole tax base. And this could be the difference between keeping a leisure centre open or building a new leisure centre, accelerating repairs, creating new environmental projects and adding sports facilities and parks to our towns and villages.
Thank you. I have a lengthy list of people who've already indicated to speak, so I'm going to call you in the order that I saw your hands. That may not necessarily be the precise order in which you put the hands up, but the next person on my list is Councillor Birch.
We are a council, not a bank. It's not our job to store taxpayers' money. We're here to provide statutory services, and in fact we provide well above statutory services. We have award-winning parks, we have a huge extension on Droitwich Leisure Centre, Evesham Leisure Centre is currently getting a new soft play area fitted, which has been courtesy of the fact that Wychavon have been able to support them to the degree that they can afford to do so. Admittedly, I'll grant you Pershore is not in that list, but the other two, plus the Lido, 3 out of 4 of our leisure facilities are getting record levels of investment. We're the only district council that is supplementing the government's cuts to UK Shared Prosperity Fund, a grant that's actually been there for years. It was preceded by the EU grants. We are the only district council that are fully subsidising that, which means that we can continue to support businesses. We continue to have award-winning parks and, of course, award-winning toilets. We continue to collect people's bins as expected, as anticipated, on time, with a well-run service. We continue to mow, maintain and look after our parks. We continue to invest in them, whether that be through new splash pads, which all 3 towns have now officially benefited from. I struggle to see what particular area we are failing in. Areas such as the one area I will grant you that we have had a degree of complaints over is street cleaning, which we have worked to fix and invested in terms of our additional £3 million investment in statutory services. Any issues that come up, we have the reserves to fix. We still have a very, very healthy level of reserves. We are still the most financially sustainable council within Worcestershire, even after this freeze. We are still one of the lowest council tax authorities within the country. We are in a position where we don't need to increase people's council tax. We don't need to stockpile money. Within unitary, the money that Wychavon residents have paid in to Wychavon District Council will be absorbed into a unitary, and the likelihood is that our benefit will not benefit proportionally from that. That has been our opposition to unitary from the start. Therefore, it is important that while we have the opportunity, we invest as much as we can into the people that have paid it into the system. If I was to come and take the money out of your bank account and use it to feed my family and use it to buy my food shopping, that wouldn't be fair. We are putting the money that people have paid in, that they've earned, worked hard to receive, into the services that directly benefit them. We will continue to do that, and I am very, very confident that whatever the government chooses to throw at us, and I'm sure there'll be some challenges along the way, that we have the bank balance and we have the financial competency to survive that and to challenge it. And if we have to come back as a worst case scenario next year and look at it, then we are in a position that we'd be able to do so. But I don't see anything that the government are able to throw at us this year that would put this council in a difficult financial situation. We have battled far harder than this. COVID, the war in Ukraine. We have had some considerable challenges and have still came through it on the other side with a very, very comfortable financial position.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkins.
I think here, as Wychavon District Council, we have been incredibly financially savvy, and we have been able to invest our money, which has then allowed us to reinvest into the local area. I think the concept of a theoretical or a practical tax, a real tax rise to deal with theoretical issues is not the way to deal with things. The assertion that the theoretical future must take precedent over the practical today, I don't think is one that we should be financially entertaining, and I think that we should continue down the path of sound financial investment to allow us to use the reserves that we have to invest when we don't have to take more from people. Because what is real is people are struggling, as I said before. So I don't think we should worry about theoretical futures when we can help people really today.
Thank you. Councillor Herdman.
Thank you. I think this year's financial plan, it continues Wychavon's track record of responsibility and stability. Despite national pressures and reductions in government funding, we've been able to deliver a balanced and forward-looking programme that protects frontline services, invests in our towns and villages, and support those most in need, all while freezing our share of the council tax for the next 2 years. This is a considerable achievement reflecting prudent management and discipline in the face of uncertainty. One of the standout features for me is the Wychavon Support Fund, the We Are Wychavon Support Fund, which is a powerful package of assistance designed to help residents, businesses and community organisations during a challenging cost of living period. The Council has taken decisive action, ensuring support reaches every corner of our district. We continue to deliver on the ambitious capital programme, invest in leisure facilities and regeneration products, transport improvements, heritage assets, climate-friendly infrastructure, and the fabric of our communities. This is not just a budget for today, it's an investment in the district's future, even though, due to the government pressures, this district in name will no longer exist. Turning specifically to my ward of Inkborough and the surrounding villages, I'm delighted to say that the budget delivers meaningful benefits for our rural communities. Inkborough, as one of our largest and most rural wards, stands to gain significantly from the continuation of the Wychavon Rural Fund, which I've been involved with, and which has supported local businesses, farms, hospitality venues, and community organisations across the countryside. This investment helps keep our rural economy strong and vibrant, supporting the very character of villages like Inkborough, the Lenches, and beyond. The budget strengthens our commitment to biodiversity, flood resilience, and natural environment, and they're all crucial issues for our parish communities. Funding for watercourse management, open space improvements, and environmental initiatives will directly support the rural landscape and local infrastructure. And none of this would be possible without the exceptional leadership, professionalism, and dedication of our officers. Their diligence, expertise, and commitment underpin every figure of this budget, from finance and planning to housing, environmental services, and community support. Our officers continue to deliver an exceptional standard of service, and they deserve our sincere thanks. And I sincerely cannot see anything wrong with this budget. So I would really like to see it voted in tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Stokes.
Yeah, thank you. I think what Councillor Arnold was referring to was the demise of Wychavon in 2 years' time and the harmonisation that we're about to deal with, which is where we will have to rationalise our council tax level with everybody else within that unitary, whether that be a South unitary or a full unitary. So there will be a harder pill to swallow because we're so efficient. So it is a case of reducing that harmonisation, which this budget does. However, we have to take on board that we can't just take the money from people in the first place without a purpose to take it for. Councillor Birch identified that. And if it adds to your security or if it helps in any way, I refer you to page 171, which is the comment made by your 151 officer and Deputy Chief Executive. She can therefore confirm that the Council's reserves are adequate. So we are presenting a budget to the new unitary that is far sturdier and far hardier than, more resilient than any other local authority is taking or any other district is taking to the unitary. So we can help our residents by not taking money from them today, but inevitably the harmonisation will happen. And whilst I would suggest that other areas reduce their council tax, I hardly see that happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Middleborough.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try to be succinct and brief. This budget, paid for out of taxation, is actually building pride in the place of Wychavon. It's also supporting Wychavon residents, and it's encouraging and hoping for new business within Wychavon. But to Councillor Arnold, I must say, I would draw your attention to the 5-year money plan on page 177, and I do hope you've looked at that in some detail, because what that shows is at the end of 27-28, so 31st of March 28, which could be the last date that Wychavon exists, there is funding of £21.5 million. And I tell you what, there isn't another district council in the whole of Worcestershire that has anything like that money. And what's going to happen to that money? Well, it's going to be handed over to the unitary authority, whichever way it operates. And what is that? That's important for Wychavon residents, because we want to see the unitary authority succeed. And we will be doing our bit. And this budget actually says we will promise to hand that money over to the unitary authorities, and it will keep services going for Wychavon people. But if reorganisation doesn't happen, that £21.5 million is here to make Wychavon continue as an ongoing, viable and thriving organisation. I tell you what, just look at these money plans in the other districts. I mean to say, we've mentioned harmonisation of council tax, where we could be involved in harmonisation with Adredich. We could be involved with harmonisation from Worcester. Look at your section or the money plans and see what we're doing for the people of Wychavon and doing it for the people of Worcestershire. It's a fantastic budget.
Thank you. I have 8 more people who have indicated they wish to speak. So you'll all get your chance, but I would point out that your opportunity to speak is an opportunity to make a new point, not to merely rehash a point that has already been made eloquently by one of your colleagues. So with that in mind, I will go to Councillor Della.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that lead up. This is an incredible budget. Colleagues have already mentioned and highlighted the capital project investment. But this is a budget for those who are just about managing. And I want to start somewhere far away from this chamber, at a kitchen table, a small kitchen table where the numbers never quite added up, where winter made the gas meter feel louder, where birthdays were joyful but carefully calculated, where Christmas was magical but negotiated. I remember meals where my sister and I ate first, full plates and no fuss. Only later did I understand that once we had gone to bed, that my parents had beans on toast, not because they liked it, because they loved us more than they feared going without. That is just about managing looks like. It is pride, it is quiet sacrifice, it is invisible arithmetic carried out by families every single night. And we do not talk about them enough, because there is no metric for quiet resilience, there is no data set for swallowed worry, and there's no funding stream for pride. But those just about managing families are exactly why this budget matters. The headline says 0%, but 0% isn't a statistic, it's a peaceful night's sleep. It is it's an envelope on the map that does not bring dread. It is stability in a world which often feels unstable. And prevention, our strapline, is not policy language. Prevention is the crisis that never arrives, the worry that never becomes fear, the dignity preserved before it is tested. While many councils are focused solely on statutory duty, we are doing something braver. We are not only protecting statutory services, we are investing in people's lives. Alongside the council tax freeze, we have committed £5 million support package. This is real money flowing into communities, backing grants, services, initiatives that meets the real needs of residents. So support is preventative, empowering and tangible. This is only possible because this council gives the communities team and others the funds and the freedom to deliver their work. They have done so in spades, and like every officer in this council, they go beyond their day-to-day responsibilities because they have the resources to do so. It is something remarkable. They are turning funding into impact, policy into people, and investment into reassurance. Through this work, we have invested in targeted support that makes a real difference. Social mobility grants, parental engagement, SEND support, investment in Men United, breakfast clubs, period dignity, well-being hubs, investment in citizen advice, community pantries, discretionary welfare, financial inclusion officer. This is what prevention looks like in practice, quiet, human and transformational. And it sits at the heart of We Are Wychavon Plan, a commitment to strong communities, opportunity, inclusion, early support, not a slogan, but a promise that resilience is built before crisis appears. I remember the moment when I was old enough to understand that sacrifices are made at a kitchen table, old enough to see strength hiding behind normality. And I made a quiet promise that if I ever had the chance, I would do something about it. Tonight, with the dedication of officers, colleagues, and this administration, that chance exists. This budget is breathing space backed by action, compassion backed by competence, investment that recognises people who rarely ask for recognition. Somewhere tonight, there is another parent who is doing the same quiet arithmetic, wondering if things will stretch, wondering if anyone understands. And tonight, through this freeze, through the £5 million support package, through prevention and investment, we answer that question. So when my name is called in this named vote and I say for, it will not be procedural, it will be personal. It will be for the kitchen table I grew up on, for the sacrifices I only understood later, for every parent performing quiet miracles tonight, for every family whose pride keeps their struggles invisible, and for those who are just about managing, the Jam families who hold our communities together without ever asking for recognition. And in that moment, when I say for, it will be a promise I made as a child to do something about the quiet struggle, has been honoured, has been acted upon, and has in this moment been fulfilled. That is more than a vote, that is a promise kept.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very, very quick point. When the package came out, we've got 180 pages of what the recommendations were going to be. It's all backed up with various appendices. I know from doing budget scrutiny, I think in my first year as being a councillor, these decisions are not made on the back of a fag packet. A lot of time, effort and scrutiny goes into this, and this is not just about one political party. I know that having sat on budget scrutiny, this is cross-party. We were given the opportunity to put forward various ideas, and whilst I agree with Councillor Arnold, no idea is a bad idea, but there is a time and a place when you put that forward. I expected to come into this meeting thinking, right, okay, we've had the package, we've all had an opportunity to read it. If we had any concerns, the concerns could have come up during the scrutiny process, or they could have come up privately by talking to a portfolio holder. Now is not the time to be debating this. We need to be certain, we need to reassure our residents. Hours and hours have gone into this. And I have confidence in my colleagues who've been involved in the process, and also, obviously, the staff who work at Wychavon. They have looked at it every which way. And I would suggest that the debate is over and we should all be agreeing with this. And now is not the time to be raising concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Morris. To continue the debate, Councillor Franks.
I just want to say that I thought Councillor Arnold made some excellent points about investment, and I do appreciate everything she said. However, I would say that given the absolute monumental mess that the Conservatives have left the County Council in, and forcing a huge rise in council tax and the absolute failure of reform to save people.
Can I remind you that we are talking about the budget here, not the County Council budget?
I worry about... Can you let me finish? I said I would like... I'd like to have some respect to me as well, to be honest. Yeah, well, I was trying to make a point, actually, and it was in your favour. If I could actually just get to the end of it. Oh, no, it's just, you know, they'll interrupt me quick enough. Not when the rest of them are going on about the county council, but when it's one of the opposition councillors say it, then he interrupts. What I was going to say that, given the failure of reform, etc., I do worry about the massive impact on residents that the budget is going to have tomorrow night at County Council. So actually I welcome the freeze in the council tax and appreciate you doing it to help residents as much as possible by Wychavon Council. Thank you.
I'd just like to point out that was not personal. But I did specifically state earlier in the meeting that we are talking about our budget and not the County Council budget. I appreciate your position, but let's focus on what we're talking about tonight.
Yes, but I'd also point out that many people said it after you'd said that and you didn't stop and interrupt them.
Councillor Boatwright-Green.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd just like to say what I say every year, council tax can get in the bin. It's the most regressive form of tax and disproportionately hits those from the lowest incomes. No idea why it's still here, and I'd like to see it gone. We can pat ourselves on the back as much as we want. We get the developer money and we put it into projects. We hand that money over, though, effectively. We're not earning it. We can pat ourselves on the back for various funds, very often government grants. But I do sometimes wonder what we are doing half the time, because at the moment, and yep, it's great to hear kind of personal stories here, but my working class chip on my shoulder is really throbbing. You can use our powers to rebalance that disproportionate impact. I didn't expect to get the value for money in my council tax. I'm very lucky to be now in a position, not when I was a child where that's not the case, where I can definitely say, yes, I don't want to pay it, but it's just affecting the ability for me to buy a nicer car. I'm very lucky like that now. I get my bins, I get the parks, but most of the roads and pavements are even covered by government grant these days. So you don't know where you're failing? Hold my Freddos. Families are left in mouldy flats and houses trying to get hold of contractors when vermin get in through no fault of the tenant. They spend hours trying to get that help, and then at 2nd of January, for instance, this year, they have to call me where I have to then chase people for 6 hours. Not acceptable. Several generations living in 2-bed flats because we can't give them a bigger house or separate them into 2 separate houses because we don't have enough social houses. Parents with children with special educational needs where the parent has nowhere to sleep themselves because they have to convert the living rooms into extra bedrooms. We are the housing authority. All of these things are where we're failing. But the one that really kills me, the one that I absolutely am shocked by, using disability payments also for children as part of the total household income to get people over the £38,000 a year threshold to eliminate them from qualifying for social housing. Policies that stop families from living a full life. It's so efficient that people end up creating mold in their own house because there are too many of them breathing in it. Where is the prevention here? This doesn't happen in Warwickshire, by the way. They have rules that adapt. People's cars break down and they need a bit of relief because they can't get to work unless they can fix their car. We have tiny discretionary budgets compared to other councils. And I completely support the 0% if it was all going to go to good causes, or our whole budget was. But so thank you, by the way, for letting me plan my finances. I've got £2.56 this year, and I've spent them on 6.8 Freddos. And I'm a nice person. Unfortunately, Emma isn't here, so I'm willing to share. It's £2.56, that's what you've saved me. We are Wychavon as long as the money is already in your pocket. That's how it feels, and that's what it feels for a lot of my residents. And don't get a terminal illness on a minimum wage, because God knows what will happen. I don't like vague pledges, I like to see clear details. Now, I feel like this council has been lucky. Nothing derailed this council. But I'd just like to point out that several of you, and I have to say, Councillor Birch, you were one of the people who started to argue on Monday that COVID derailed the council when the Conservatives are in power. Okay, fair point. But tomorrow you're going to argue against the 151 officer because you think you know better. I look forward to watching you do that acrobatics because you've just argued the complete opposite here.
Councillor Crump.
Mine will be short, I promise. First of all, just before I say what I want to say, I'm just disappointed in how my fellow councillor has been talked down to when having the opportunity to speak so passionately about what she believes. That really disappointed me tonight from yourselves. What I'd like to make clear at this point is I am getting telephone calls and messages from residents who have seen the press release that went out last week to say about the 0% council tax. And this is something that I think is really, really important, and we need to really get this message across. It's our section of the council tax that is being frozen. The £2 or whatever it is, the very small amount of the council tax that is not going to be increased. It is not the whole council tax. So people look at when they look at the council tax, they look at the bottom line. They don't look at all the different sectors which we all know break down county council and ourselves. Sorry mentioning county council there, but just in this context, sir. And also, it's all mentioned there, but everyone looks at the bottom line. And they're coming to me and said, isn't it fantastic news that the council tax is being frozen? And we won't be paying extra council tax for the next 2 years. I'm like, unfortunately, that isn't the case. We don't know what that figure is going to be yet, but it's just the portion that is Wychavon. And this is the message that's not getting across to our residents. We can sit and debate it and talk about it for hours and hours on end, like we are, and we're all passionate about it. Yes, I think it's fantastic that we are going to freeze it. I understand that. But our residents do not understand that factor. They are seeing it that council tax is being frozen, and when that bill hits their, whether they've signed up for the email, which hopefully they have, or it hits their doormat in 2 weeks' time, subject to tomorrow, then they are then going to look at these bills and see the massive increase that they're potentially going to have, and they are going to have to find that money from April. So this is the thing that is really there for our residents. And I know we are Wychavon, and we do a great job, and we are a great council, but it's the other factors that are affecting our residents. And this is also going to cause us a major problem for our Revs and Benefits department, because come the time when those bills hit, those people are going to be picking up the phone and saying, you told us that our council tax was being frozen. Why have we got the bill for this? And those poor officers and employees that are going to have to deal with those phone calls are going to have to explain time and time again that it is not frozen, it is the Wychavon part that is frozen, not the council tax overall. And that is something that is not being made clear when that press release went out. So that is something I feel personally, having spoken with many residents, that this is an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Chairman. We are Wychavon, exactly as Councillor Crump says, and Councillor Crump will be pleased to know that, yes, residents get confused because they see council tax all as one, but this year we're going to take the opportunity to communicate Wychavon's proportion of the council tax and what we're doing at Wychavon separately, so that we're not having to send it out on a leaflet that's got everything about the fire authority, the police and the county council and whatever. That is going to go out separately for Wychavon. But we are Wychavon, we're Wychavon district councillors, and that's why we're deciding Wychavon budget. So I make no apologies for repeating, we are Wychavon. And as the leader said earlier, this is what we do at Wychavon. And yes, we are in unique times because of the onset potentially of local government reorganisation, but this is what we do at Wychavon. So we are proposing a council tax freeze. This is the 7th year that we will have frozen council tax, which is where, so the 7th year that we will have kept more of our residents' own money in their own pocket. We haven't taken it from them for us to decide what happens with it. We've left residents' own money in their own pocket. However, that isn't the only thing that is new. It was mentioned about grants and things. So I would remind probably some of our newer members that for 5 years, Wychavon gave £1 million each year in community legacy grants. £5 million. Now, let me tell you, if you don't already know, where that money came from. That money came from New Homes Bonus. The majority of councils used that to provide what they needed to do for those new homes. Wychavon didn't do that. We did the exact things that we're talking about here now, which is all the aspirational things that all our communities wanted. We've provided, I don't know how many, Councillor Adams would probably be able to help me. I don't know how many new village halls we've provided, new sports centres we've provided, new cricket pitches we've provided, play facilities, goodness knows what. But that is in addition. So whilst we've been freezing council tax, we've also, over 5 years, given £1 million a year, so £5 million in community legacy grant. And that is not to be forgotten. We talk about now, in the wake of local government reorganisation, about legacy. We already have a legacy in Wychavon, and our residents are continuing to enjoy that legacy and benefit from that legacy. So the way I've described it, in the wake of local government reorganisation is that for us at Wychavon, it's business as usual, but it's business as usual on speed. So that is why in the next 2 years, we are proposing the £5 million fund. And what that will do is where government grant funding isn't coming to us, we will not allow our district to suffer. We will not allow our businesses to suffer. We will not allow our rural businesses and all the rural schemes to suffer, because we at Wychavon, because we are Wychavon, are providing those grants. So people will not see any difference, even though the government funding is stopping. But what else is going to be within that £5 million? Very mindful, as we've heard the leader say, about the wise investments that Wychavon have made over the years, that those wise investments have been made with residents' money, with taxpayers' money. And so it's only right that those investments, the benefit from those investments go back to our residents. And that's why we've been very clear in that £5 million, it is a suite of measures to benefit our residents. And the other thing that we've been very clear about, which is why we haven't been exactly specific with it, because we want it to be flexible and we want it to be agile. And the key thing around that is that we want it to be a suite of measures to benefit our residents, but as many residents as possible to the greatest degree. And it will be for all demographics, it will be for young and old, it will be for town and rural, and all of the different measures that we will put in place will be to ensure that if we possibly can, every single resident of Wychavon will benefit from that. So we are keeping more of residents' own money in their own pocket, whilst making sure that they have the benefit of the Wychavon legacy, and the Wychavon legacy lives on. So I, for one, am extremely proud that we are putting this budget forward, and I will, with great pride, support this budget. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Leader.
Thank you, Chair. So hopefully I won't be too long either. I'm really happy we're having this discussion, to be honest, because it is the budget. It's Wychavon's budget. It's for our residents. So we should all have a say and all have a comment on what we believe. I won't defend Conservatives at county tonight, but we will tomorrow, because there is a right story there as well. But I do get confused by my Lib Dem colleagues, I have to admit. On the one hand, they want to put an amendment for hardship, but on the other hand, they want to raise the tax. On the one hand, they don't want to raise the tax, but on the other hand, they do want to raise the tax. I get confused. We will not increase where we do not need to. That is our view, that is our approach. We have more reserves than all the other districts and county put together. We have built that up over time by really good management of our finances, really good decisions, and really good councillors and officers. Yeah, that has happened. We may not be perfect. There's always more we can do. And what we're saying with the 5 million over 2 years is that we will look to do more. You know, there are people that are suffering where perhaps Wychavon can help, and we need to look at that and address that. We're that kind of improving council. We don't sit on our laurels. We're proud of what we do, but we know we can do more. As Councillor Kersey said, and I did earlier, we've made good decisions in the past. The investments we've done have materialised and paid back. Not just investments on industrial sites, but our treasury management over the years has done a superb job. We've invested well. But also our strategies in the past. It was our head of communications that reminded me yesterday of years ago when we had Grow Safe Charge at the time of the austerity, when many councils again were cutting back and stopping services, but we implemented Grow Safe Charge. What that meant, in charge, we took on 8 other councils and did their car parking services for them. We looked to see how we could bring money into our district and then pay back to our residents. We're innovative. We do things different. Yeah, and that is our approach. We will not take where we don't need to. Perhaps it's our political doctrine. We are Conservatives in the leadership of this council. We believe in giving money back to residents and leaving money in residents' pockets, and that will be our decision.
Okay, and Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'm starving, so mine will probably be even shorter. Just on raised as an accountant, just on the maths, it's not the £2.60 this year that I think, it's over 7 years. The standard recommendation I've seen has been 2%, which over 7 years is 15%. But if we had gone for, take the highest raise as possible to make sure we were as prepared as possible, 5% over 7 years is a 40% increase. I'm even more thankful that I'm not paying 40% more on my district council tax.
Thank you. Well, that was the last person who stuck their finger up to speak. So we go back to Councillor Stokes to finally summarise before we go to the vote.
I think it's been a brilliant debate, and I absolutely welcome all these comments coming forward. Criticism as well, it all makes a brilliant debate. But we are here presenting a budget for your communities, and we're doing it in a frugal manner, but still delivering great services and producing more things. And I will just add, because whilst we're talking about the £5 million, and whilst we're talking about the 0% freeze, none of you have picked up on the additional income spent on all our services that we've actually increased. So thank you very much to the Wychavon officers who are going to deliver a brilliant 26-27. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Now we will go to the vote on this. This needs to be a named vote, so I'll hand over to Misha to take us through that.
Okay, I will call out your names in alphabetical order. If you could answer with a for, against or abstain. Councillor Adams. For. Councillor Arnold.
This is really tricky for me. I'll vote for. I mean, I know it's not the time to speak, so for.
Councillor Birch.
For.
Councillor Boatwright Green. Against. Councillor Bowden.
For.
Councillor Sciotti. For. Councillor Clatworthy.
For.
Councillor Crump. Against. Councillor Dorks.
For.
Councillor Day.
For.
Councillor Della.
For.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Dyke. For. Councillor Franks.
For.
Councillor Googe.
For.
Councillor Grady.
For.
Councillor Adrian Hardman.
For.
Councillor Beverley Hardman.
For.
Councillor Homer.
For.
Councillor Kersey.
For.
Councillor Knight.
For.
Councillor Middleborough.
For.
Councillor Nicola Morris.
For.
Councillor Richard Morris.
For.
Councillor Raphael.
For.
Councillor Reeves.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
For.
Councillor Robson.
For.
Councillor Rowley.
Against.
Councillor Stokes.
For.
Councillor Tasker.
For.
Councillor Charles Tucker.
Against.
Councillor Liz Tucker.
Against.
Councillor Julie Tucker.
For.
Councillor Trourier.
Against.
Councillor Ward.
For.
Councillor Wilkins.
For.
Councillor Winfield.
Abstain.
And Councillor Wright.
For.
Okay, well that's carried with 32 votes in favour, 6 against and 1 abstention. So thank you all for your contributions to that item. We will move swiftly on to item 11 on the agenda, the pay policy statement. Over to Councillor Stokes.
Thank you, Chairman. This hopefully shouldn't be quite as contentious. I propose the approval of the report that is a statutory requirement and details the Council's pay structure and framework for the year. the recommendation that the Council approves the attached 26-27 pay policy statement on page 179. Thank you.
And Leader?
I will second, thank you.
Any other comments on that? Councillor Boatwright.
Sort of hoping we can get universal vote on this one. And, just let's go for it. Let's give it a go. I mean, this one's, pay for the staff. Let's do it.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? No, in that case, we will go straight to the vote on this. All those in favour, please show. And that is unanimous. Well done. Right, moving on to item 12, the council tax formal resolution. Councillor Stokes again.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, this is quite a formal resolution, so I must read it out correctly. To propose the approval of the formal resolutions for the council tax 26-27, the recommendations contained in this report are necessary for the legal setting of the council tax 26-27. The report deals with the District Council major preceptors except Worcestershire County Council, which I do have to mention, the Town and Parish Council precepts and any other council tax setting matters. The precept requirement from Worcestershire County Council has not yet been approved and is therefore not included in these resolutions. It is expected that the precept will be agreed either Thursday the 26th of February or at an alternative meeting on Friday, March the 6th. Once agreed, an updated resolution will be presented to this council as we have to formally approve all precepting bodies' council tax as we are the billing authority. Therefore, the recommendations included within the reports include all precepting bodies other than the county council. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader.
I will second.
Okay, do we have any comments on this? No, in this case, this one needs to be another named vote, so back to Misha.
So the same as before, I'll call your name if you can indicate for, against or abstaining. Councillor Adams. For. Councillor Arnold. For. Councillor Birch. For. Councillor Boatwright Green.
For.
Councillor Bowden.
For.
Councillor Ciotti. For. Councillor Clatworthy. For. Councillor Crump. For. Councillor Dawkes. For. Councillor Day.
For.
Councillor Della.
For.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Dyke. Councillor Franks.
For.
Councillor Googe.
For.
Councillor Grady. Councillor Adrian Hardman. Councillor Beverley Hardman.
For.
Councillor Homer.
For.
Councillor Kersey. Councillor Knight.
For.
Councillor Middleborough. Councillor Nicola Morris.
For.
Councillor Richard Morris.
For.
Councillor Raphael. Councillor Reeves.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
For.
Councillor Robson. Councillor Rowley.
Abstain.
And Councillor Stokes.
For.
Councillor Tasker.
For.
Councillor Charles Tucker.
For.
Councillor Liz Tucker.
For.
Councillor Julie Tucker.
For.
Councillor Tourier.
For.
Councillor Ward.
For.
Councillor Wilkins.
For.
Councillor Winfield.
For.
Councillor Wright.
For.
So that's passed with 38 in favour, no against and 1 abstention. And a reminder that we do have to come back on Friday to go through this all again once we've got the county councils. So, well, not quite all of it again, but we do need enough of you to come and be quorate, so please do. Right, moving swiftly on then to item 13, Wychavon District Council response to the NPPF. Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will recall from the Executive Board that this was just a paper to actually say that it was going to be, the response was going to go forward. Members now have the response that is proposed. Councillor Hardman, are you listening? They have the response that is going to be proposed to go back, but the resolution tonight is to go over to the Director of Planning and Infrastructure and the portfolio holder before we send the response. What I would urge you all to do is to actually look over the response if you haven't already. If there's anything particularly that you disagree with, and if you a lot of the things we're saying partially agree or partially disagree. I personally feel that, I don't know, if I'm honest, if it's anything like the government consultations that they've had, are they going to take any notice anyway? And so does it mean if they're going to take more notice if we say strongly agree or disagree, or partially agree or disagree? I honestly don't know. And a conversation that I had with Ian earlier, he's not sure either. So I think the best thing to do is to go with what we think is the right thing for Wychavon, and if it's something in the response at the moment that is different to what you think it should be, please let me know and I will review it before it is submitted, so that we give the best representation, with the hope that they actually take any notice of the consultation. So I propose this at page 189, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Birch.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to give kudos to the Planning Department for all the work that's gone into producing it. As you'll see, it's a lengthy consultation, and then they've been hit by a few in recent months and years, and unfortunately we've just given them one more through the motion to respond to. So kudos to them for their work, and happy to second.
Councillor Rowley.
Congratulate the officers for having persevered with this, because I've been trying to do my own response to it. I mean, I thought the whole purpose of the government was to get more government central control of planning, but then I've been trying to fathom what they mean by the requirements for doing a neighbourhood plan, because they sort of say that you need to, they don't actually say you need to have more, propose additional housing, you just can't, so it's just as vague as it was. So, I will certainly take your advice, and I appreciate that, because I thought perhaps it was a done thing, and as I've been looking at it for quite a while, and I find it very difficult to assimilate, if I could have a word with the officers perhaps, or yourself, before you send it off. Thank you.
Councillor Morris, were you indicating to speak or merely waving your hands around? Okay, in that case, Councillor Boatwright Green.
Yeah, so I can't thank anyone enough for trying to persevere through this. I mean, 225 questions for a consultation in itself is just another level. I know a few parishes have been really keen to respond to this in some way, but obviously, like a lot of us, have taken one look at it and just gone, I would rather literally do anything else. Is there anything we can provide for them, just to give them a bit of an overview? Because I've read the documents, but then actually going to respond to it, even though I'm somebody who actually understands planning relatively well, this is actually quite difficult to kind of access. And I think a lot of our parishes would have appreciated, or would appreciate a little bit of support on this one as well, because they are keen to do it. But in all honesty, I just don't have the time to write a 4-page brief on what they're trying to do here.
Thank you. Councillor Kersey.
Sorry, Chairman, I should have asked, does anybody else want to speak before you?
Do we have any other questions? Sorry, before we go back to Councillor Kersey, just sum up. No? Okay, back to you then.
I think Councillor Rowley's expression of fathom is probably the best description of it. If I'm being perfectly honest, of what we've had with the government as far as planning, everything that's come out of the government, our housing numbers, everything that they've tried to do, changing the national planning policy framework. Will they listen to any of this? I honestly don't know. And so, Councillor Boatwright Green, in answer to your question, I'm at a loss to know what we can. I completely agree with you. We should all be responding. All of our parishes should be responding. But it's very difficult to guide the parishes to say, respond in this way and respond to this particular point, because it's all particularly vague, and I can't help but think that it actually has been put there for the government to have centralised targets for them to have their say. And from what we've seen since this government has come into play, that it just seems that they want to decide. Obviously, we see whatever it is that we do, well-reasoned planning committee decisions, a large number of the officers' decisions that are made under delegated powers get allowed at appeal. And so it does feel like we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. They just make decisions based on whatever it is they want to do. And my personal feeling, but it is pretty much based on evidence, they literally just want to get their housing numbers through, and they have no care of how that happens. And with regards to neighbourhood plans and the National Planning Policy Framework, I think they see anything that is democracy or gives us any sort of control, it means that it's out of their hands, which is obviously what we see from the inspectors. So, but if I look on the positive side of things, it is a consultation, so absolutely we need to respond to it in the best possible way. And I think really probably the better thing to do is for us to make sure that everything that we respond to as Wychavon, as the local planning authority, is as strong as it can be and reflects our views as strongly as possible. And particularly with neighbourhood plans, yes, we've gone out and when the government withdrew the funding, we've then supplied the funding so that parishes can do neighbourhood plans, but it is very vague as to what they're saying. But the thing that is within neighbourhood plans is still the local green space. So if anybody, the jury's still out if a parish wants to review their neighbourhood plan, for me, is the jury's still out on that, because potentially they could end up in a worse situation. In my view, from what I've seen of it, if this goes through. But as far as doing a new neighbourhood plan, it's still worthwhile because you then have policies in place. But we would be, if this all goes through, not in as strong a position as the neighbourhood plans carry at the moment. So I think as much of what we say in our response that follows that through, even if that's the only thing that they take away from this, that they honour neighbourhood plans, because ultimately that came out of the Localism Act, and that is democracy. So even if we wrote nothing about anything else, we need to make our position very clear on that they need to make it very black and white, because in planning terms we have to have it black and white. So that's a very long answer to say that it's very frustrating, but I think, yes, as much time as you can give it so that our response is very robust and as clear as it can be. Whether they take any notice, I don't know, we can only hope.
Okay, in that case we will... Oh, Adrian, sorry, I didn't see your hand raised.
That's very kind, Chairman, and I'd like to thank the Cabinet member for her... Are you listening, Emma? For in-depth explanation of where she thinks we are. But I'd just like to hear her views, because the housing minister, whose name now escapes me, but she had it earlier, he has a name like Pennicote, is announcing a new housing strategy. But then appears not to be consulting on that in any shape or form. So in my view, we're completely wasting our time.
Yeah, I do probably, and in my defence, but you are absolutely right to call me out for that. Thank you, Councillor Hardman. But I was actually looking at Isabel, because Isabel was trying to say something to me. You were holding up 10. Is that could say it's consultation by the 10th of March?
Yes, thank you. So the consultation closes on the 10th of March. So if we could have responses back, if anyone is able to have a look through and have any responses back to officers, probably I would say by close of play on the 6th, just so we can incorporate those in the response and take them past the director and the portfolio holder. That would be great. Thank you.
Is there anybody else wanting to speak on this? No? In that case, we will vote on that. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Right, moving on then to reports of chairman, starting with the executive board leader, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So there's been 2 meetings of the Executive Board since the last council. We met on the 7th of January, which was chaired by my Deputy Leader, Councillor Emma Kersey. And the items that we discussed, we've already talked about the council tax base, but Wychavon Town acquisition strategy for the delivery of early infrastructure, Wychavon Town spatial framework, supplementary planning document. We've talked about Throckmorton tonight. Intelligently Green annual update, 24-25, along with the approval of almost 108,000 in Section 106 developer contributions, which went to Littleton Football Club, Bredon Parish Council, Badsey Parish Council, Offanem Parish Council, and Offanem Village Hall. We also considered proposals for our regeneration of Evesham Town Centre through the purchase of the Riverside, and that was subsequently approved at the special council meeting on the 21st of January. There was a further meeting on the 11th of February, which was my first meeting back. At that meeting, we discussed the report of the Budget Scrutiny Group. I said thank you earlier, but I repeat that in the fact, and I did say at the Executive Board how impressed I was with all the questions, because they were so varied, so wide, and I did urge all members to read those questions, because you will actually gain knowledge about what our council does by going through those questions. They were so insightful and so well done. So thank you to ONS in total for their support there. The LGA Peer Challenge Progress Report, the Community Infrastructure Levy, Project Identification and Spend. We Are Wychavon, Q3 Performance Report. The potential reallocation of new homes bonus monies for Pershore and the approval of 38,000 Section 106 develop contributions for promotional activities in Evesham. All other items we've covered on the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, do we have any questions on any of that? No? In that case, moving on to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Homer.
Thanks, Chairman. Since the last council meeting, ONS have met twice on the 14th of January and the 18th of February. On the 14th of Jan, we had our PCC, John Campion, for a second time in a year, along with Dan Pilkington, West Mercia's Chief Inspector. We had a detailed presentation from John and Dan, and an hour of questions ensued. We had questions ranging from Operation Franklin to police support of other enforcement agencies, most notably with the recent examples in Peopleton, to what the residents can do to protect themselves from car crime. Councillor Tucker then presented the Budget Scrutiny Report to the committee. I'd like to place on record again my thanks to the members of that committee and the officers who support it, whom give a considerable amount of time at a time of year which is quite difficult for most people to find time for the work that is done, because it is done so diligent. It's easy for me to say it this time of night. It'll be in the minutes, don't worry. Which is evident from the fact that also the recommendations were supported and accepted by the Executive Board. On the 18th of Feb, we had representatives from the Environmental Agency who presented on their work within the district. An hour of questions followed, and it was an informative and useful debate. I was especially grateful to members of Avon Vale River Action Group who came to ask questions and share their experience and knowledge. It was heartening to hear the EA acknowledge the importance of citizen science, but it's also important that as members of the public continue to report anything they see of concern, as the EA, much like the police, also need to gather intelligence as much as evidence. So I'd urge everyone to remember the hotline number and make contact if you see anything of concerning. We then considered the We Are Wychavon Q3 report, which also had some highlights from our most recent resident survey. Following this again, we considered the 26-27 budget and the money plan for 30-31. Lastly, at each meeting, we've also received an update from Councillor Ward, who sits on the county-wide Health and Scrutiny Committee. Mark has always provided a detailed update on the condition of our local health services, and I would recommend all members take the opportunity to see his reports to the committee, because they are insightful and informative. Our next meeting will be on the 8th of April, and as ever, all members are welcome to attend and participate in our work. Thank you.
Any questions on that? No? In that case, we move on to planning. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chair. We've had quite a lot about planning tonight, haven't we? So I'll be very brief. Otherwise, you might get bored with such an interesting subject. I'm looking at the Planning Committee. We've had 2 meetings since the last major council, and we've considered 7 applications, mainly major applications. As I think Councillor Kersey said, we have had a lot of input in the last year or two from the officers in producing SWDPR and the Joint Advisory Panel, which is at last touch wood, coming to fruition. And there's a meeting, as you know, on March the 18th, I think it is, for the councillors to ask any questions, and also hopefully this will be ratified later in the month. It'll be very good to have a structure to planning and development, a bit of black and white has been mentioned, and the next battle will be the MPPF, which, as I agree with Councillor Rowley and Councillor Kersey, is a bit of a mystery at the moment, and to see how it's going to pan out. I think there'll be lots of discussions on that. We do all need houses. We need social houses, but we need to also protect rural areas from the rapid encroachment that has happened, which is, I think, very important, and it's always a balance. I can't see how this is going to be achieved at the moment. And that's all I have to say, except my thanks to the committee for their hard work, efforts and support. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions on that? No? In that case, we move on to licensing. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Chair. Since the last full council meeting on the 17th of December, we've had two licensing subcommittee meetings where we looked at the approval of 2 Hackney carriages, 8 private hire vehicles and 2 drivers. And there's going to be a full meeting of the licensing committee on the 18th of March, and I also would like to express my thanks to all members of the committee for the support that they give. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any questions on that one, so we will move on to Member Conduct Committee. Councillor Raphael.
Chairman, thank you. The last meeting of the Member Conduct Committee was cancelled due to a lack of substantive business. There has therefore been no formal meeting of Member Conduct since the last council meeting. The Monitor Officer continues to deal with parish council complaints informally and liaises with the members of the committee and independent members when necessary. And that concludes my report, Chairman.
Not seeing any questions on that one, so we move on to Audit Committee. Councillor Hardman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the Audit Committee met on Friday the 13th of February, and we reviewed and approved the Statement of Accounts for 24-25. We also had the Audit Completion Report done by Assets reported to this committee, which we duly noted. Sadly, of course, we still have a disclaimed opinion for 24-25 because, of course, the auditors are unable to establish the baseline as yet. We also reviewed the budget and money plan up to 2031 and considered the changes that have been brought forward in the final settlement. We reviewed the Treasury Management Strategy and the Capital Strategy, and since audit never sleeps, we will be meeting on the 27th of March, and all members are welcome to attend. There yet to see one who is not on the committee come, but I live in hope.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions, comments on that? No? In that case, we move on, finally, to the last item on the agenda, which is questions, if any, from members of the Council, and we do have one question, so over to Councillor Crump.
Sorry, it's just the one question that it's come to light in the last week. Can I be assured our planning officers are not being put under undue pressure to determining applications? Some planning applications in my ward have been escalated to become recommended for approval before the adoption of the SWDPR, despite the fact all serious queries have not been resolved sufficiently.
And Councillor Kersey has a response for you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you can be assured. No, we are not under, or our officers are not under undue pressure, and we will continue to determine planning applications in advance of the SWDPR adoption, as we've been doing for several years. I know the application in question that's concerned you, and I've looked at that application, and I can, by all means, speak to you about it after.
I'll just come back on that. That's not the only one. There is another one as well, which we can discuss as well, which I would certainly like to follow up with you.
Yeah, by all means. I can look at any individual ones with you, but yeah, fundamentally, no, they're not under any undue pressure, and we're just following exactly the same process as we have been before the SWDPR is adopted.
Thank you. Well, that gets us to the end of this agenda. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you all again Friday afternoon.